Okay, Tuesday, August 30th. It's the end of the day. Let's do a SPY recap, see what happened today, how it looked on the intraday chart, what it means, going forward a little bit. So basically, after Monday's what I call the momentum shooter bar, where you're expecting continuation lower, that's exactly what you got. If you just looked at the daily chart without looking at anything else, you'd see that you stay below the midpoint of the prior day and you kind of moved lower with a big red bar. Some of the other interesting aspects of the day is after we started lower, we did reach that first target. That was this low. I pointed out these three targets coming up, so that's been reached. The question is on the weekly chart, as you're coming down, for another two down continuation week, are you going to hit this target down here? In my opinion, I think that's going to happen, but not necessarily by the end of this week. It's possible. We still have 3 days to go, so we'll see. And, these targets here as well. The reason I think eventually we're heading down there at the moment, even if we get a little bit of pause action here first, is that we're going to end tomorrow with the month on this shooter bar. And to me, this shooter bar represents a failure of this inside monthly bar. I've talked about that a few times now, where it's just an inside bar, breaks to the upside, kind of reaches its targets, fails, so now it wants to sort of test the bottom end of that range. Again, doesn't necessarily mean you're breaking out and going crazy to all-time lows. It just means we're kind of working to the bottom of the range, especially if we kind of hit the midway point of that, which you would think, following through lower. So after this bar forms on tomorrow, you should follow through lower into September, and that by that point you're kind of at the midway point of this range, which means you're heading to the bottom of that range. That's unless something changes. You'll see it first on the daily chart, then you'll see it on the weekly chart. That's what I'm looking for at the moment. But we'll stick with, that's the scenario in play, like I said, at the moment. Let's see how it looked in terms of the day. Again, you look on the daily chart, you would say, without really knowing kind of an X-ray view of what happened, you say, oh, just below the midway point of the prior day and move lower. The way I saw it was we had this overnight, pre-market action that had a range of a high and low here. And I kind of discussed if we got a green bar to start from the bottom, just expect us to go up here at most. And then, maybe we're pausing for 2 days in a row before going lower. In this case, it was very clear trading. One of the, days you kind of love to see where everything aligned. So you get this big starting green, red bar right out of the gates, down 15-minute bar. So you're below the range of the pre-market. You're below the midpoint of yesterday, they were both about the same thing, the low of that range and the mid-range of yesterday. And then boom, that's it. That's the short signal, looking for the continuation lower, to below the lows of the prior day, because that's the momentum bar in play. So that means you'll probably continue lower. And then you got the classic one move down, pause, two moves down, and that's it. Classic directional day, at least the way I define it and look for it. And that set up a lot of good trades overall. You use that as a guide, the S&P. And, for me, I bought NVIDIA puts based on that, because that had a similar look to it. And I was able to take advantage of that. And then I did a secondary trade that I posted on Meta after the big move down. You could have picked this one too. A lot of stocks did very similar, had similar price action. Secondary trade, sell here, and was able to exit into here. And I explained that once you get the two moves, that's usually it. And you can see we eventually go sideways the rest of the day. So it was just a very clear trade in terms of, clear price action in terms of trading. So now tomorrow we kind of we'll watch, the pre-market, overnight pre-market action going forward. We want to stay below the midpoint of today in terms of continuing lower. You never know what to expect tomorrow. It gets a little more difficult now that you have a few days down, because at any moment you could have that pause, a little pullback before you continue lower in the bigger picture, the bottom end. Let's call this the whole range in here. So we're kind of working towards the bottom, but like you can see here on the way up, the days that you get excited about now are the little pullback days to then get back with the trend. So ideally, I'd like to see a little bit of pullback action here and then get excited to continue lower. So we'll see if that develops. But for now, if you want to continue momentum, just be, very aware that at any moment you can get a quick move that can just stop and fail to the downside and maybe give a little corrective action to the upside. So we'll just see how it goes. But these were the Friday for sure, and then today were very easy, clear days to the downside with a lot of context in play, and just classic opening price action, which led you there without any conflict at all. So good trading day today. We'll see where it opens tomorrow.